Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Thursday, the 27th of July, at the slightly earlier time, of course, of 9 a.m, as I'm hot-footing it up to Glasgow shortly. But I'm delighted to say Stevie has also got up early. He got up mega early as he's been on a running spree at the moment. Stevie, how's it going? Is it day 40 now?
Day 40, my man. Yep. So I was up this morning at 5 a.m. running around. I nearly got run over twice this morning, Derek. I think because I told everybody I was up at that time the other morning, Rangers Review, people are out trying to aim for me. But it was unusually busy this morning at that time. It's a bit dreeked as well. A good Scottish word for you there. It's a bit dreeked. So me and Dog still had fun. Well, I'm not sure it was fun, but you know what I mean. And that's day 40 done. So yeah, even the boss man said I was looking a bit trim last night, so I don't mind that. So people are certainly noticing a difference. So there we go.
Yeah,
in my head.
Yeah, gearing up for, of course, the live show tomorrow night. I'm sure you'll be looking sensational tomorrow night, Stevie. Just a reminder, folks, just before I forget. There are a small number of tickets still remaining for that. So if you haven't got your tickets yet, then click on the new Edmiston House website link that I've popped in the description box. £21.50. That includes the booking fee. Doors open at 6:30 for a 7 p.m. start. We'll be chatting all things Rangers for an hour. Myself, Stevie, Johnny, and Joshua. There'll be a bit of a break for a few refreshments, and then we'll be back on with Barry Ferguson to talk about his time at the club and his thoughts for the season ahead. Cannot wait for it. So, get your tickets if you haven't already done so to avoid disappointment. You can get them on the door, I'm told, but they do advise me to tell people just to get the tickets beforehand, just to avoid any disappointment. Right, Rangers were playing last night, Stevie. Not the best of games, it's fair to say. Pre-season friendly. The trio of Ibrox games rounded up with a 3-1 defeat at home to Greek giants Olympiacos. I've seen on social media a few folk not happy with different elements of the performance and of certain players' performances, and a few worries creeping in ahead of the season opener at Rugby Park. You were there last night, Stevie. What were your big takeaways?
First of all, Derek, a wee morning shout out to Jim McKerrow. We seen Jim again last night. I kind of caught him in the passing. I wasn't really able to chat as such because we were on our way down to the press room. So good morning to Jim. Thanks for the continued nice words and support that Jim gives us. Watches all the time, I think. So,
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, absolutely. Thoughts on last night? I'm going to try and be as balanced as I can because people might be aware that I tend to maybe react a wee bit. So, pre-season friendly,
never.
Right? Oh well, something like that, Derek. Pre-season friendly, obviously. It wasn't good, right? I don't think there's anybody. I think it would be disingenuous to sit here and say anything different. It was a really poor performance. There wasn't a lot of plus points, if any. They looked disjointed at times. They looked very sluggish in the legs, very, very sluggish. And it looks like they've had a lot of work being put into them. And it's kind of came back on them a wee bit. I thought they were slow on the ball, didn't move it quick enough, didn't get it forward. I thought they were overrun at times. And the more that went on, the more questions there were than answers. And I think that also as the game progressed, Olympiacos just began to move it quicker. They began to move it round us at times really easily, which was disappointing. I don't think the shape looked particularly good. And defensively, I think that's the biggest problem last night we came away with defensively. I don't think there's any massive surprises of where those issues were. But, there's still a lot of work to be done. However, this time last season, we gubbed West Ham 3-1.
Yeah.
And we looked like world beaters. Like, I remember the third goal, I think, possibly even the second goal when Kent scored. We went from one end to the other for about 25 passes, and we were unreal. So I'm not going to read too much into it. The absolute necessity is we're ready for Kilmarnock. But everybody wanted a big change. Michael Beale said it, and he's absolutely right. Everybody wanted a refresh. Everybody wanted a revamp and a big change. We can't suddenly expect 7 players to go into that team, click our fingers, and then all of a sudden we look wonderful. Mm-hmm. So it's all about fitness. Neil's right. Absolutely take that, and he's right in what he's saying about it being a team that's been put together. Absolutely. So we know that there's big signings coming. Danilo is done. He will arrive very shortly, and that'll be done in the next couple of days, perhaps even over the weekend, starting next week. I'd expect it in the next couple of days, Derek, to be honest, depending on what happens. That was confirmed to us last night. So Cifuentes will be next once his work permit comes in, and that takes us up to 9. I still think, and it goes back to what I said the other day to you, last night only confirmed to me that we need a centre-back quite desperately. Yeah. That team and dynamic will change, however, once Connor Goldson comes back, and then he's next to John Souttar. I think that's where we're going to be. Left-back's a problem area. Last night, left-back was exposed time and time again. Borna Barisic was in behind him, past him. Borna Barisic used to, when he first came to Rangers, he would go down that left-hand side and he would keep going, Derek, like there was no tomorrow. He would attack. Problem now is he seems to get to the halfway line and then comes back on himself. Yeah. And it's become second nature now. And there was a moment, Derek, after about 20-odd minutes, and you know what it's like at Ibrox. There was an audible and visible groan from the crowd as he went forward, checked back, and we started off again. Almost like he's been so trained into the horseshoe effect that he can't get out of it. Ridvan came on in the second half, and instantly his first thought is get to the edge of the box, and he played in Sam Lammers, who had a first-time shot, which was saved. Unfortunately for Ridvan, for the third goal, he was caught and was quite poor. They worked it round him, and away he went out as well. But there was just so slack. I mean, John Lundstrom came on and gave the ball away 3 or 4 times in the first 60 seconds, which nearly cost us a goal. So there was just a slackness, a lethargy about the players. Todd Cantwell was off it. Nico Raskin never really got into the game. And I just think perhaps it was a game too many or the training's been too much. However, to balance that off, Michael Beale says he was well aware of that being the case. That's why they picked these games, put a lot in the legs, and in weeks and months to come, it'll all bear fruit. So there's a balance there. I'm not going to overreact or try not to overreact. But I think, as I said, using that word again, it'd be disingenuous for me to sit here and say, you know what, Derek, we were unlucky, this, that, and everything else. We went. It was a really, really, really poor performance. And we were looking for a lot more.
Yeah, so many comments come in, and let's get to a few of them. Firstly, just harping back, Doug says, Derek, have you stopped doing the morning broadcast on Twitter? We have, Doug. It's now on Facebook and YouTube. We stick the link up on Twitter after we go live here, so you can catch it if that is your preferred medium to catch the morning briefing, but it's on just Facebook and YouTube. And of course, many of you listen to the podcast as well. You can get that on all podcast providers shortly after we go live. Let's get to one or two. Ian Thompson said last night left me with more questions than answers, to be honest, guys. Tam Brown says, I know it's a pre-season friendly, but the fans pay good money to be entertained, and that wasn't good enough. Too many had off nights. David McFarlane raises an interesting point. I think we need to let new players and ideas bed in. It's been a lot of changes, so need to be patient. Pretty much what you've been saying, Stevie. However, the same old players showing they aren't up to it. You mentioned Borna there and John Lundstrom. For me, I think I've said on record I would be quite happy if Borna was stuck around for the season as an option. I don't think Rangers are going to recoup much money for him going into the final year of his deal. I, however, don't think he's a first-choice left-back. I think Ridvan has the jersey, and we need to start playing him from here on in. I think Dujon Sterling, of course, he's still out with that calf strain. We are all hoping that he will be back fit and firing soon. He's an option over on that left-hand side as well. Borna, for me, he's just ran his course at Rangers, Steve. I think he needs a fresh challenge. Ditto John Lundstrom, perhaps. He's not looked. He's looked a bit off the pace in the pre-season friendlies. Is there any others? Glenn Kamara, we spoke about yesterday, of course, hasn't been seen. Scott Wright is one that was over in Turkey. That the discussions, I believe, still ongoing with Pendixspor about departing there. There's a good few players that need to be shipped out, you'd imagine.
Yeah, let's revisit Borna Barisic. I also said that we'd be happy for him to hang about in the pretense that I think Yilmaz is by far now the number one choice, or certainly should be. The issue I've got is now, and I think most of the fan base have it, there's too much baggage with Borna Barisic. So when the fans see him, when he does what he does last night, after 20 minutes, now we're 20 minutes into a friendly, and the audible, booing from the crowd, not booing or groaning.
I know what you mean, yeah.
Groaning from the crowd is because everyone's sick of seeing that move, that kind of left back move, forward, horseshoe round, and back we go. There's so much space in front of him, and I think now perhaps people have just had enough and they're kind of sick of it. It's the same, like Derek, right? Okay, bang on what Derek says. They're same faces, same mistakes. That's what keeps happening. Now, the issue he's got on the left-hand side is Ben Davies is next to him. I don't think either of them help each other at all, because some of the passes plays them into trouble. Borna doesn't stop a cross. The amount of crosses that got by him last night, Derek, that Ben Davies had to get away. Ben Davies isn't clearing them well, so it's going out for a shy, or it's going out to the Olympiacos player, but it's not up the field. It's straight out into a danger area.
Yeah.
And then it's difficult again. So I think possibly, once Yilmaz comes back, once Dujon Sterling comes back, he's at training at the end of the week. Incidentally, the manager confirmed last night he's fine and he's returning.
Yeah.
So I think, once the boys come back and properly start playing and bedding in, Yilmaz has to be the first choice. I wouldn't be against, if Borna goes, possibly dipping into the market if there's another option for a naturally left-sided fullback there. But I would be inclined to say reactionary slightly, probably from pre-season, that I don't think Borna is really up to where we need to be defensively. No. Absolutely. Ben Davies on the left, that left-hand side of the defence is a weakness. They are targeting it. I would go as far as to say that, if Goldson's not ready for Kilmarnock, Balogun on the left-hand side would be a better choice for me than Ben Davies there. Yilmaz needs to come in at left back, but we need to start kind of bedding that in. It's not the first time in pre-season that side's been targeted either, which is problematic. Against Newcastle, they're constantly in on the left-hand side. Yeah. So we need to fix that. He was asked about it last night, the manager as well. So it's clearly not just me, thinking. I think it's an overwhelming feeling amongst the support. The others that you mentioned, Scott Wright's time at Rangers is up. He didn't play last night because that talks are ongoing. It's a big decision for him. I get it. He's just been married. Does he really want to go out to Turkey and things like that? So if he doesn't go out there, then I think definitely his time is up. John McLaughlin's time at Rangers is up. It was kind of poor last night for goals that were conceded. Although defensively in front of him, he had absolutely no protection at all. Glenn Kamara's time's up. I know that move to Leeds is still ongoing, Derek. There's still talks there. If we could get £4 or £5 million for him, then that's a real win for us, because I think he's completely checked out. There's been things that have happened, and I get that, and I think there's context there, in terms of what happened to him, with Slavia and stuff like that. So I get it, but I think his time's gone. I think there's a few more that need to be going. I don't think Rangers would be difficult to deal with if somebody come in for Ben Davies, if somebody come in for perhaps even Yanis Hadji. So Fashion Sakala, we know that now, it was published last night that interest we spoke about from Saudi, that's now kind of been more or less confirmed that he's turned that down, but they're still in negotiations. So I think, Rabi Matondo, as much as he might be a nice boy, kind of tried last night. There's nothing there with him at all.
No, I agree.
So, you've got then what we at there, about half a dozen, maybe 7, 8, that could leave the squad, and they wouldn't have much more. If we were wanting to bring in another centre half, I think it's crucial that these guys get moved on. You free up a bit more cash and then possibly reinvest, because we have made a massive outlay. We know that Danilo is going to be the best part of £4 or £5 million. You know, the manager did say that the money that was being branded about for him, especially in wages, there was posts saying that he was getting 40 grand stuff a week. That is absolutely not true. So it wouldn't surprise me if the fee is slightly lower, maybe around 4 or 5 million than the 6 million that people are talking about. But that's still a huge investment for us. But that's one that has to be right. Dessers looked isolated at times, perhaps putting another one up there with him. I think Danilo's going to be the box player. I think Dessers might be more round about it as well. So
that's interesting. That's interesting because I've spoken, and folks, those that are members to our YouTube channel, we'll see a video last night. I spoke to an Eredivisie expert. Michael was very helpful. He talked about the three of them, Lammers, Dessers, and Danilo. He's surprised Rangers have bought all three of them, and he was thinking he was surprised that Rangers bought Danilo after buying Dessers. He says are very similar. But he's intrigued to see how they get on together. But that's up to Michael Beale to find a way of playing these guys. Listen, all three will need to play Stevie because of the outlay. So it's about finding positions for them all.
I think the problem is, as well, is that Sam Lammers is obviously a 10. And I think that's his best position. And I think he's actually done really well. I think he's, shown quite a bit in pre-season. Not massively, but enough for us to say he's going to be good and we're going to get more out of him. The issue we've got with that is I think Cantwell's best as a 10 as well, pressing on.
I was going to pose that question,
So when Cantwell's in midfield, I think it slightly takes away from him.
Yeah.
So this is going to be, I know it's a big season and players will juggle about and will move things about and things like that. Do you really need then somebody like Hadji in your squad when you've got Cantwell and Lammers, and then you've got two front men there as well? There's a lot of jiggling to be done with this squad and kind of moving about. The manager said as well, it's quite interesting, have to name the European squad next week, Derek. It's only 17 places up for grabs because we know that 8 are homegrown positions from the 25. So 4 of them have to be the youngsters that have come all the way through. So you're looking at Kieran Wright, potentially Robbie McCrory, unless that move comes about. Leon King. Does Alex Lowry get in? Does Alex and Adam Devine? Who's your kind of ones there that make that up? Then you'll get Ryan Jack and stuff who'll get straight in because he's Scottish and that's a free place more or less. Yeah, those 17 places, that squad's massive. You're looking at maybe 30 odd players playing for 17 places. Once that happens, and I don't think that the likes of Kamar Roof, Yanis Hadji, Rabbi Matondo, I don't think these guys make it. And once that, you've even got a question over your centre backs. Like who's going to be the ones? Obviously John Suter and Leon King will get straight in because they're Scottish. Is there room for everyone else? The midfield's overrun kind of thing. Manager alluded to it, and I agree with him. Once that squad gets picked and these boys aren't in it, and all of a sudden it becomes obvious where they are in the kind of rank and file of the squad, he expects then that players will move on. Bailey Rice is a free position because he's been, he's a Scottish under 21. Basically, he hasn't been there the homegrown 3 years, but he's still a free position in that 8 somewhere as well. But it's a good point. He's potentially there as a young Scottish player. He's not homegrown for us yet. I think he needs to be with the club 3 years, which he hasn't done. But see, once this happens, Derek, I think you'll see moves, and the manager alluded to it last night. But there's a lot of work to be done there, kind of trimming and streamlining that squad. I go back to it and say, once that's done, I think it's imperative we get another centre back in that's left-sided.
Yeah, let's get to a few comments that are coming in. First of all, huge thanks to Jan, who's signed up to become a member. He says, thanks for all the content, lads. Long-time listener, sub on the website. Thanks very much for your support, buddy. It's greatly appreciated. A big hello to Ika, who's tuning in from Brazil. Bom dia, Brazil. Good morning from Brazil. Good to have your company, buddy, on this Thursday morning. That was an interesting one about Cantwell and Lammers. It's up to Beale to find how they can both play, because they both need to play for me. I'll just read you what Michael Beale said on the points last night that Stevie brought up. He was asked about any concerns about the left side of the defence. Michael Beale said, I thought the right back was very good. Bonner started the game slow, but Ridvan needs to look at the third goal as well. So both can do better. The boys trained hard into the game, and I get as soon as we play, everyone wants it to look shiny and fantastic, but we'll be okay. We just need to keep moving in the right direction with our training and ideas. And I'm pleased. We needed a big change of players, and we got it. There's 1 or 2 incoming as well, and it will all settle down. And when it's supposed to be in 10 days' time, 10 days is a long time in pre-season. Today we created good chances in the game, and we don't take them. I thought Abdallah was good. You could see Cyril is finding his feet in terms of fitness, and Sam was good again. So I'm really pleased with the new guys coming in. He was asked, do you have lots of work to do over the rest of pre-season? I'm fine at the moment because we had a double session on Monday and trained hard yesterday. So I know where the boys are at. We're challenging them, and I'll see the benefits of that when the season starts. We know we have to push the group because from the start of the season, we go into a 3-game week for the rest of the month. It's important we have things in our legs, and I don't want to stop training hard going into a game against a good opponent tonight. There's a reason why we picked this level of opponent. There's no point getting pats on the back winning 3-0 against lesser opponents. We wanted to get in there and play against teams who'd really challenge us in some of our ideas and open our eyes. So it's when the real football starts, we're ready. You can see Olympiacos are a very good team. I expected that. So I can't disagree with much of what Michael Beale says there. But end of the day, I'm happily taking a beating at Hoffenheim at the weekend, Steve, as long as Rangers pitch up at Kilmarnock and do the business. That's all that matters. But certainly concerns and questions being raised last night. I'll pose this one to you. Just on, you mentioned John McLaughlin, and of course Robbie McCrory started the game. Ian says, can someone explain the sense in Butland not featuring? He's a keeper who needs games. Is that a surprise for you?
No, because so does Robbie McCrory and so does John McLaughlin. We may not think they're number one, but they have to get game time somewhere. Jack Butland will start on Saturday. I think he played 90 against Newcastle. You know, he was also he didn't. He came on against Newcastle. He played 90 against Hamburg.
Yeah.
So he's got games, and I think he played 90 possibly in the friendly over in Germany as well. So he's got game time. He'll start again on Saturday. So no, I mean it's not an issue, and he's got some strong training. And look, Jack Butland is going to be number one. There's absolutely no question marks around that. I think that potentially helps the defence as well, but I don't think it's a massive question, Ian. To be honest, in that sense, we have to get game time. Michael Beale alluded to this last night. He made a really kind of, which I thought was an interesting point. He says it's the last of the friendlies on Saturday where I have to give 20 players a game. I thought that was quite interesting. He's having to get players fit, and if we want guys moved out as well, teams will ask where are they in their pre-season, and if he goes, hasn't had any game time, he's trained, so we then need to get a match fit and stuff like that. It doesn't really work. So like Sarabi Matondo and things like that, he's maybe thinking, well, we can say to teams, yeah, he's had a good pre-season, he's match fit, ready to go. He's played in a couple of games as well. So I can see the sense behind using the squad. As for going to Saturday and saying, we don't really care if there's a big defeat and stuff like that, I counter that slightly, because you go over there and you get a whitewash of a result on back of last night. It's about confidence as well. So we do need something from Saturday. I'm not necessarily saying a victory, but we certainly need a performance, something that you can take on into the new week with Kilmarnock coming at the end of it. I remember by the time we played Kilmarnock, they'll have played the League Cup games and stuff like that. So they'll be up to speed with the proper games and be ready to go. So, I don't think that's a concern. It's just a point, I think, for me, which is valid when it comes to that first league game.
Yeah, some interesting points being raised here. First of all, Stuart Campbell says, I forgot this was early today, was watching the post-match video. Well, it's good to have you along with us now, Stuart, but yes, we're early because I need to hot-foot it over to the train station Warrington to head up to Glasgow shortly. Point being raised here by Dave McFarlane. My worry is we are stuck with the players we should be shipping out and therefore can't bring others in. I think Danilo and Cifuentes, for me, I'd be happy with that business in terms of that if that was wrapped up. I say that. I think from last night, I know another centre-back. I know that Rangers have been looking to bring in another centre-back. I think if Rangers can bring in another defender, Stevie, it may be dependent on players moving out, perhaps. But I think that'll be pretty much the business done, unless there's a major player that moves out that we weren't really expecting. But in terms of the overall business, you're quite happy with the business that has been done at this point?
What I would say is, before I slightly come to that, I don't have an issue with the players going out. I don't think we'll be stuck with them. I think you'll see movement. I've heard enough to believe that there's going to be movement, so I'm not concerned about that. It might perhaps take longer into the window, but I think the ones that we'll mentioned, I think you'll see them moving on. I think there might then be, another couple maybe potentially after that kind of move on also. So I'm not concerned about that. With regards to our business and the 9 that come in, am I pleased? Yeah, I am. On paper, they all look, fairly decent acquisitions. The issue that Michael Beale's got, and this is something we spoke about, Derek, over the summer, something I've written about as well. Excuse me, I've got something in my... This is because you made me get up so early. The issue that Michael Beale's got is, if you're spending the best part of 13, 15 million on 3 frontmen, Sam Lammers, Cyril Dessers, Danilo, they boys have got to be good. Yeah. The boys have got to play. You've got to get 20 goals from your front men. You've got to get 10 and assists from Lammers as well. So the pressure's there for Michael Beale to ensure that these guys play well. See if Sima comes and we don't see a lot of Sima, and he maybe doesn't click. He's on loan, so it doesn't quite matter. Kieran Dowell comes, he's a free transfer. So see if Kieran Dowell's good, there'll be a level of expectancy of that anyway. If he doesn't do great, he's a free transfer, he's English, he'll move back down south. They're not big risks. Biggest risk for Michael Beale is those 3 players, and they have to be good. They have to click. Cifuentes will bring something we don't have at the moment either, which is the box-to-box.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to him.
The legs. He's going to come straight into that team and start. All of a sudden, when he comes, John Lundstrom's under real pressure. And I know it was a pre-season game last night. I know it's pre-season so far, but John Lundstrom has not looked good. And I mean particularly on the ball. He was so bad last night, so slack. And that level of performance from him, from Borna, etc.
No, we need better. Yeah.
We need far better. And it's all right saying it's pre-season, which I've said, and I'll counter that. It's all about fitness. I completely understand. But to quickly turn that on, I'm not so sure. So these boys need to get up to speed a bit quicker.
Yeah, totally agree. Some interesting comments coming in. Maka says, "Don't worry, buddy. I'm keeping my eye on the clock. Train now approaching platform 2. See you all at Edmondson House. Yeah, looking forward to seeing you, buddy." Liske says, "Before you go, can you name the players you think will be gone by the end of the window?" I think we've pretty much
done that.
Up the list of players. Yeah, that we reckon don't have a Rangers future really. And Yanis Hadji is an interesting one you mentioned there, Stevie, because I think was it Newcastle he impressed in that sort of deeper lying role. And I think Michael Beale touched on that. He did move him there. He'd like to see him with facing the action as opposed to his back to it. But he's certainly one that you're looking at that squad at the moment, very congested in the middle of that park, isn't it? If Cifuentes comes in as well, you mentioned Lammers and Cantwell. Where does Hadji fit into that? Well, we'd be happy being a squad player coming on here and there. I think if Rangers, like Sakala, of course, like Glenn Kamara, if they get a bid of, £4 or £5 million, I think that's certainly something you'd have to look at.
Yeah, it is. I don't think, if you're looking at having 6 midfielders, of Cantwell, Raskin, Cifuentes, Dowell, Jack, Lundstrom.
Dowell's another one, yeah.
That's 6.
Yeah.
Where does Yanis Hadji get in there? I don't think he does. And then you've got the front 4. You've got Danilo, Dessers, Sima, Lammers. So where is Yanis Hadji in there? So if we can see him getting moved into the middle 3, where does he get ahead of those 6? I'm not kind of sure that he does. He's not going to get ahead of Lundstrom and Jack because they're different players. He's not going to get ahead of Raskin, different players. So he's up against Dowell, Cifuentes, Cantwell. He's not starting ahead of any of them at this moment for Yanis Hadji. So I know that Yanis Hadji's come back from a big injury as well, Derek. That's obvious.
Yeah, I love the guy. I like him. I always enjoy.
I do, Derek,
speak,
but at the same time, there needs to be a ruthlessness about this squad the way it is. If somebody come in for money for Yanis Hadji, for me, I would be saying thank you, Yanis. It's time to go. Same for Fashion, same for Borna. You know, the names that we mentioned, Glenn Kamara, Scott Wright, Rabbi Matondo, John McLaughlin. These guys, I think it's time to move them on. The issue you've got goalkeeping wise is if you do move John McLaughlin on, if you do then move Robbie McCrory on, you need to go back into the market for somebody because that would leave us short. So there's maybe, that's why I said there's maybe a wee bit of business still to be done depending on what happens with some of them. But with regards to Fashion, transfer wise, and that move, you know, we've given them permission to go and speak to them. We've obviously had a bid that we think is reasonable enough. So it's no coincidence that Fashion suddenly, you know, took his stuff off Twitter and things like that. And then all of a sudden it comes out that he is speaking to teams. So I think Fashion possibly could be one that kind of moved on. He's certainly down now. He's behind Kamar Roof. He's behind the four strikers we talked about there as well. So, you know, Fashion, for all that he's kind of contributed, we might not be able to offer him first team football anymore. So there's still, I still think, Derek, and I've said,
and there's still a lot of time in the window, Stevie.
There's big stuff to come in the transfer window here.
Yeah, I totally agree. We'll just wrap up. Tam Brown says, on a positive note, on a happier note, good results for the B team and the women yesterday. Absolutely, the B team defeating their Everton counterparts, the under-21 side from Goodison Park by 3-0. And the Rangers women thrashing Queen's Park 11-0 to make it to the Glasgow Cup final. So well done to both those sides.
Just a wee shout out on the women's thing to my best pal, Kathy Hill. Me and Kathy are really close. She came back. She's 10 weeks recovery in the summer, Derek. She's worked so hard to recover from a knee injury. She played the last 3 or 4 months last year with a really bad knee injury. Needed surgery in the summer, which she got. She went through massive recovery in the summer, you know, rehabilitation. She's absolutely smashed it. She's done brilliant. Captain of the club. Came back last night. First corner kick, she came on as a sub. Broke her nose. So she got a really bad, I think, elbow in the face. So she was at hospital to AM this morning. So she needs to wait for the swelling to go down before they fix it. They'll now have Celtic in the final on Saturday. So let's hope that she's back in time. But we shout out for her because she's been through the ringer. She loves the club, Derek. She's a massive, massive Rangers fan. So we shout out to my pal. It was a good result for the women last night. By all accounts, they were very, very impressive. So, you know, a new attacking system in there, a new manager and things. So, you know, well done to the women. It was a great result. Well done to the B side as well. Some good players in that to look out for.
Yeah, absolutely. We always enjoy a Rangers victory, whatever level that they're playing at. So, yeah, well done to both sides. Right, folks, that'll do us there. Thanks to Stevie, as ever. Thanks to everyone for interacting with the show. We'll be back again tomorrow as we look ahead to the game on Saturday. And Ewan, who's been on his holiday bags over in Canada, is hot-footing it over to Germany to cover the game for us. We are hoping to link up with him at some point. I'm not too sure when he lands over there, but we'll try and bring you as much content as possible as he covers that game against Hoffenheim. Right, bye everyone. I'm away to catch my train, but I'll speak to you again tomorrow. Bye for now.